Hey guys, so at this point we are most of the way through Legends Festival. We're about a month into the celebration, and typically when it comes to making videos talking about the overall quality of the celebration and how I think the celebration was handled as a whole, I don't like to do these kinds of videos until the entire celebration has concluded, because that gives us a bigger look at how everything panned out throughout all the parts. We currently have not yet seen what their plans are for part 3, but we do have a good idea as to what some of the upcoming events are going to be. We should be seeing the reveal for the Ultra in less than a week from when this video goes live. Not exactly sure as the exact day yet. Again, I think it'll probably end up being the 25th on Wednesday. That's Christmas Day, which is when, I guess the day before on Christmas Eve. Yeah, Christmas Eve is when they're going to do the reveal and stuff. Interesting. But I think in terms of the overall sentiment, not just for me, but for most of the community when it comes to how they've handled this Legends Fest celebration so far, 2024, I think this video probably is warranted, because there's almost nothing they can really do for a part 3, whether or not it's going to be just a grand slam, home run, slam dunk part 3. Even if that ends up being the case, I don't think they're really going to fully recover from how badly things have been handled so far. So I'm going to do this video. This is more so going to be a community reaction video, community response video, seeing what you guys have to say here. I did make a post asking for you guys to respond to what I said with your biggest complaints about Legends Fest. I know there's a slight spelling error. So hopefully someone posts the GIF of the Namek Goku angry Kamehameha. What is it? Slight spelling mistake. I win or whatever. Hopefully someone posts that. But so we'll go through some of these comments, and I'll give my responses to how I'm feeling. I guess I can give just an overall rundown of my feelings about how things have been handled so far. I could sit down and record a super angry, rage-filled rant of me slamming my desk and being super mad about how things have been handled. I mean, to me, that doesn't really feel like a very conductive way to do a video like this. If things continue to be pretty badly, and I'm feeling pretty offended by how they've done. I mean, to be honest, I am feeling a little bit offended of how they've handled the celebration so far. But if I'm feeling very emotionally charged, maybe when part 3 drops, or if they've handled anything else poorly, maybe we'll do a rage-filled rant video. I've used to do those back in the day. If you guys remember back to 2021, that was when the game was at its lowest point. I would say it was even worse back then than it is now, for sure. We definitely did a few rage-filled rants back then. But at the end of the day, when it comes to how the development team handles the design of characters and just the overall flow of how the game is managed, we really don't know. At the end of the day, we really don't know what the root cause is, right? I don't think they're sitting down and planning out Legends Fest and they're like, okay, guys, how do we make this the least hype possible? How do we make this celebration way worse than last year? Like, I don't think that was their goal going into the celebration. So I think there's probably something going on either with the personnel management, or something to do with teams being shuffled around, or whether there's some kind of issue going on with Dimps. Remember, Dimps is the developer of the game. Bandai is the publisher. There could be stuff going on behind the scenes that obviously we're seeing the effects of play out in the actual development and design of the celebration and the characters we've gotten so far. We just don't know. We don't know, and I don't think we'll ever know the reason behind why things seem significantly just more underwhelming this year than they were last year. So we can all we can do is speculate, and I don't think it really makes a ton of sense to get super mad over this, because we have no control over this. Like, all we can do from our end as people who are enjoying the game and playing the game, and I guess as their customers, is we can provide feedback to them on how we're feeling. We can either choose to play the game, not play the game, give feedback, and the way that they decide to manage the game moving forward is completely up to them. But as a company, as a product, as a company providing a product to their customers, their job should be to figure out what makes their customers happy and base their development cycle and their plans off of what's going to result in highest customer satisfaction. And I don't think that they have been necessarily doing a great job of that here. And again, I don't know if we're ever going to know the reason behind why that's the case. So that's just my perspective on this. Again, if things become even worse in part 3, and I feel like there's a need to jump into like a rage-filled blood-curdling scream rant video, I will do that, but I don't think it's going to be very conducive to a healthy discussion here, which is what we really need right now. So we'll go through some of these comments, and I'll give my thoughts on what some of these comments are. All right, so the first comment here is from Ryuden. Let's go ahead and expand this so we can see the full thing. Lack of new mechanics / interesting ways to play characters. Yeah, this is something that I've been very vocal about. Not even just for the Legends Fest itself, but more so when it comes to just the year. I would say the first half of the year going through the anniversary was pretty solid. I think we started out pretty good with the GT celebration in January. We got an LF Zenkai right away with Gogeta. They jumped into a double LF month, which is very strong. The team panned out to be pretty good right away. They did a good job of establishing the GT team. Then we jumped into the Cell Saga celebration. A little bit of a toxic break from what we saw with the GT stuff. I mean, to be fair, Super 17 wasn't exactly a non-toxic release, but Gohan was annoying to fight. Super Vegeta was a fumbled release. So I think in February, even all the way back then, is where we started to see a lot of things start to spiral out of I guess, phase of normalcy that we were used to. The Powerful Opponent celebration in March, I thought was actually pretty good. Baby was a solid release all around. I thought Golden Frieza was not super toxic. I understand how people thought maybe that the comeback mechanic that he introduced was pretty toxic. But I think when you compare Golden Frieza to a lot of the more toxic releases we've gotten this year, it's not even remotely close. The Saiyan Saga celebration was definitely a little bit less hype than we're used to, especially leading into the anniversary. But overall, when you actually look at the structure of the Saiyan Saga celebration, it wasn't really that bad. I just think it's more so an issue with the Mega Rising banner format. And then going into the anniversary itself, I thought it was a very, very solid celebration. The only black mark on how they handled the anniversary was just the server issues that they had. Which honestly, it was just a problem with how many people were trying to play the game at the same time, which I guess is a good thing, but at the same time, they need to fix their servers. It's interesting how we haven't seen any server issues in Legends Fest. I wonder why that's the case. But I would say that through the first 6-7 months of this year, things were going pretty well. It really wasn't until we jumped into the Z movie celebration that really brought down the momentum of the entire year almost. And since then, I think things have just been trotting along in a rut almost, and that's really where we are right now. Super strong units, mainly ultras, are starting to blend together and look indistinguishable in the worst possible ways. Yeah, so this is also something that I've mentioned. It just feels like there is a very established base of what characters need to have in order to function. I mean, we could just pull up the roster here and just go through a lot of these characters. Like, let's pull up like Majin Vegeta, all like the recent units. Majin Vegeta, let's pull up Turles, we got Daima Goku, let's go like Vegito Blue, Gotenks, like literally every major release, we have the same things. We got damage, reduced damage received, extra reduced damage received. We got card draw speed, we got cost down. Literally the same things. Every character is the same. Every character is the same. And now we're starting to see this bleed into equipment as well. I mean, we take a look at what they did with the platinum equipment for Super Gogeta. I think this is a good equip. I think they did a good job with Super Gogeta. I definitely would have preferred if they gave him a little bit more defensive mechanics for him to be a little bit better against things like Majin Vegeta's lock-in. I don't really know what their philosophy is with how good they want to make these equipment, but Gogeta is at least a solid character now as opposed to before when he was completely a zero. But I mean, if you look at what they did in the last slot here, obviously I'm not a huge fan. I've been very vocal about how I dislike this needing to be a character needing to be at 7 stars to get this. But I mean, this is right here. This is an embodiment of what the game is currently in, the state that the game is in. Damage, cover null, double card draw speed, boom. Every single character is this. This is every character. Every single character is the same. And I think this point does tie in with this point too, right? It's just every character kind of is just the same. Everyone has level 2 card draw speed, 10 counts of cover nullification, guaranteed card on entry, the freaking AoE green cards. Yeah. Yeah, AoE green card. I've been very, very vocal about AoE green cards being discontinued. I don't think they need to develop new characters that have AoE green cards. They can just stop doing that, and then AoE green cards will go away. That's just the way I think things should be. But I would agree with this. Other things that we've seen become sort of normalized throughout the course of the year is buff removal when opponents use a big card or big attack like an ultimate or a rising rush. buff removal is very prevalent amongst a lot of the better characters in the game. Endurance is basically almost a given for characters these days. Blast armor is almost a given for characters these days. There really isn't, when you look at the grand scheme of the entire design of all these characters, what really is the difference between like Majin Vegeta and Daima Goku and Vegito Blue and who else we have up here? Turles. Like most of these characters have very few things that differentiate themselves from every other character. Like 80% of these characters are the same character with very slight differences. So I think this game needs to do a better job of creating unique mechanics and differentiating characters from each other. I'm not saying they need to reinvent the wheel with every single release, but at least put in some effort to make them different. I mean, every character having exactly like the same stuff on entry and all this stuff, it's just the same thing every single time. It's like almost tiring. All right, let's move on to the next comment. Waited for future buffs for wait, what? I waited for future buffs for, I think you meant to say over a year. For over a year, just for the team to be practically unusable by part 2. I mean, that to me, that's just, unfortunately, that's just a product of Rosé not being good enough. I do think that's part of a bigger problem as well over this year. I think I talked about this in one of my recent videos. As characters get more and more complex, I think it becomes harder to balance characters, right? So when we take a look at some of the major releases over this year, like Rosé is not the only character they fumbled. I mean, I guess I will call him a fumble. I mean, he's definitely underpowered. I guess we could just classify them as underpowered releases. Rosé is certainly not the only underpowered release of the year. We also have what I think is the most underpowered release of the year with Super Vegeta. Then we have another underpowered release with God Goku. Then we have another underpowered release with legendary Super Saiyan Broly, the transforming Z Broly. And then we have Rosé. So they've actually underpowered 4 major releases this year, which is a lot. That is way more underpowered releases than we saw in 2023. I mean, if we go through 2023, who was like severely underpowered? Who would I consider to be severely underpowered on release in 2023? Probably just the Buu Duo, right? This guy certainly was very good. No one would consider this guy to be underpowered at all. Revival UI Goku was very good. The Buu Duo were just not good. Goku and Frieza were obviously, I mean, I think they were, the funny thing about this character is they were underpowered on release, but they did, I think they did the right thing with Goku and Frieza. I think buffing them was the correct decision. The only problem with doing that is if they're not going to be consistent with doing that moving forward, I think maybe they should have taken a different approach. So them not choosing to buff future underpowered releases or characters that they thought were not given the tools that they needed to make a lasting impact on the meta at the time when they came out, they should have either buff them and then continue buffing characters like this character, similar positions to this character in the future, or done something differently. But they need to have a consistent way of dealing with this problem moving forward, right? Because you can't just like buff one character and then next time we're not going to buff the other character. Like there's got to be some consistency here. So I think they made the right decision with Goku and Frieza. So I guess I would consider them to be an underpowered release. So this Goku and Frieza and then the Buu Duo. Gammas were insane. Piccolo was pretty good. I wouldn't consider Orange Piccolo to be underpowered. Purple Cell was very good. Namekoku was very good. Path Power Kid Goku was good. This character was very good. This character was good, but they fell off very quickly. And then Ultimate Gohan was good. Goku and Bardock was good, and then UI was good. So yeah, there were only 2 underpowered releases in 2023. One of them they actually rectified right away, and then the other one, unfortunately, was just the Buu Duo. So this is like one of the saddest releases ever because they were bad when they came out. They were bad with their unique equipment, and they were bad with their Zenkai. So it's just unfortunate. I don't know what to say. But in 2024, we've had 4 releases that were I would consider to be underpowered on release, which you don't want to see that. So. I would say that this future team not being good enough is just probably more so an issue with characters being too complex and them not having the resources probably to actually test how good the characters are and do the adequate balance testing, but I don't know. Also got to say, I don't love being stuck in 99 plus combos with no counterplay. Thanks, Goku Black, for both. Yeah. Lastly, why Zenkai Green Trunks and just him? I have no clue. As of right now, as of me recording this video on December 19th, very early in the morning on December 19th, I don't know why they did the Zenkai for Trunks. If they wanted to give a future character a Zenkai Awakening, I mean, we could pull up the future team here. They had very plentiful amount of options here. We could have gone with the androids, which I think would have probably, honestly, looking back, this is probably the biggest miss that they had this festival. I think this is probably a more important miss than them making Goku Black underpowered. Actually, I think them not Zenkaiing the androids. I think what they should have done is they should have Zenkai'd the androids and then made this Goku Black blue. I think is what they should have done. Actually, them not Zenkaiing the androids has led to this meta. This was the one character I think that they really could have released that would have stopped this like infinite combo, nobody dies, everybody is just comboing each other the whole match sort of environment we're in. This character needed to Zenkai Awaken, they didn't. They could have also Zenkai Awakened the OG Purple Cell, which they didn't. Future Gohan was right there, they didn't Zenkai him. I feel like they could have even Zenkai'd Vegeta and Trunks, would have been a better pick than this Trunks. This Trunks was literally the 4th place. And I think it's not even close. Like, he's a distant 4th place for who I would have picked for the Zenkai. So, and on top of that, he's buffing green hybrids with the Zenkai ability. I don't understand. They're not dropping a green hybrid as the Ultra. I would hope not. I mean, how many green characters are we going to get here? I don't think the Part 3 Ultra is going to be a green hybrid Saiyan. So I don't really understand the decision making behind this. I agree with this. Back in my day, Yunus used to work for their cover notification. Yeah, true. They had to land a card, pop a green, fill a gauge, pop a main. Now Yunus just come out the womb swinging with cover null. Legends Fest did nothing to change this, and now characters hit 99 combos with these. Yeah, this fits into what we were talking about with Ryuden's comment, which I think is just every character is the same, and when every character is the same, guess what that means? When every character is the same, it means most interactions that you have in a fight are going to be the same. There's going to be very little variance in what actually transpires during a fight, and that I think directly contributes to just monotony in the game, which is obviously not good. All right, let's check out what we got here. Part 1 and 2 units are simply just an extension of the meta going into Fest, and variants for characters we already had / the tag buffing had been neglected for so long it's not meta relevant to a team like Majin Buu Saga. Yeah, again, I think this is this is all just going to tie back to every character being the same character. Part 1 and 2 units being an extension of the meta going into Fest, this just means there's almost no differentiation between characters releasing in Festival versus characters releasing right before Festival. They're the same characters with just slight upgrades. Right, and the best way to really illustrate this problem, I think, is I've shown this many times. We can close some of these tabs so I don't get overwhelmed here. Let's just go back to the anniversary. Remember, the anniversary starts at the end of May, so we're talking 6.5 months ago. 6.5 months ago, we had the main characters of the anniversary release. Let's pull up transforming, I guess fusing Super Vegito and fusing Gogeta Blue. Let's take a look at how much damage inflicted they have right away. 100% damage inflicted, and then these guys also have 100% damage inflicted. If we go and just gradually progress through the year, starting from 5.5 months ago, let's take a look at Gohan, or I guess 6.5 months ago, whatever, same thing. Let's take a look at Ultimate Gohan. Let's pull up U. Let's pull up Omega. Let's pull up U. Gotenks. Just pulling up some of the LF characters here. U. All right. So Ultimate Gohan's Part 2 anniversary. He's got 110. I think Omega was next in terms of LF characters. He's got 110 as well. Broly, you've got 120. Retrieve My Goku, you've got 130. Gotenks, you've got 140. Vegito, you've got 150. Daima Goku, you've got 170. They're just slightly buffing the numbers every character that comes out. There's not really a ton of innovation going on here besides just, oh, well, guess what? This guy's doing 170. Got to summon for the new character now. He's better. I mean, it's very obvious. They're not even trying to be discreet about how they're handling this. So I think that is really what fits into this statement. One LF Zenkai, yeah, I don't understand this. No new mechanics introduced or revisited, true. They had a silver platter with the synchro gauge. They introduced a very interesting mechanic. This, to me, is what separates the 6th anniversary from the rest of the year for me. The synchro gauge is a very unique and interesting mechanic that I think that mechanic to me has more application than just being used as a fusion button. The synchro gauge can be way more flexible than just being a fusion button. It doesn't necessarily need to just be essentially what the synchro gauge is essentially just a 2.0 transformation. I think it can be used for more than that, but they really haven't even tried to expand on the synchro gauge mechanic. We just have been getting essentially the 1.0 version of the synchro gauge, which is a transformation mechanic, which we've had in the game since 2018. So I don't really understand why they haven't taken a revisit of the synchro gauge ability. They just haven't given us another synchro mechanic character since the anniversary. 2 free-to-play units. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about free-to-play unit. I mean, the Vegeta's actually, I think, pretty good for a free character. The Trunks is not very good. But I think at this point in Legends Fest last year, I don't remember if we had more than 2 or not. Because we're definitely going to get another one for New Year's. Because last year was Beerus, right? The blue Beerus. 1 plat equip for Ultra. Yeah, this week. Honestly, this week is really what prompted me to make this video. Many people, including myself, were expecting a Zenkai Awakening. This week, for context, this week last year was the week where we got the Zenkai for LF Bardock. So I was thinking, okay, yeah, we're going to get the Platinum equipment for Super Gogeta. That's cool. But, you know, we're approaching the end of the year. They really want to start building up some momentum for this Ultra release. We haven't had a Zenkai Awakening in a few weeks now. I'm ready for, you know, at least a 1% sparking Zenkai Awakening. And there was nothing. The only piece of content this week was the Platinum equipment for Super Gogeta, which, if you take a look at, I think, probably most people, they don't have Super Gogeta. You can get him from the Daima shop if you've logged in for 10 weeks straight or whatever it is. But, I mean, I don't really think a 0-star Super Gogeta, even with the unique equipment that is stargating you from using the best part of it, is really that good content, but okay. 1 unique equipment for Legends Limited. Yeah, that was for Sword of Hope Trunks. I think Sword of Hope Trunks is fairly competent now. But, yeah, again, only 1 is kind of sure. The game is 6 going on 7 years old. We should not be regressing during major celebrations. Something simply is not right. Yeah, this is... I would agree with this. And this, to me, is why I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it really feels to me almost like something is just not right with the development team. I think there's probably some either restructuring or layoffs or some miscommunication or disconnect with Bandai and Dimps. There's something going on behind the scenes because, again, they are not sitting down and actively deciding to make the celebration lackluster. They're not like, all right, guys, we gave them one hell of a 6th anniversary. How do we make this Legends Festival terrible? That's not what they're saying. I don't think that's what they're saying. So there's got to be something going on. I don't think we're ever really going to know the reason for why things are the way that they are, but I'll tend to... I don't want to say give them the benefit of the doubt because I am always critical of how they design and develop the game. But the way that they've handled this festival so far has been, at least in my opinion, particularly egregious. So there's got to be something going on, I would imagine. 3 to 4 units having transformations makes all 3 of them feel uninspired and boring. I would agree, yeah. I think transformation characters are cool, but I feel like there needs to be a reason to give transformation characters. I don't think just giving us a bunch of transformation characters for the sake of giving us transformation characters means anything. I would rather have a character that has much more polished animations, looks a lot more interesting, was given more innovation and just unique stuff in their mechanics that they bring to the table than having just a transforming character for the sake of them being transforming, right? And they've actually done a lot of transforming characters this year. We could take a look here. I think it probably ended up being more so towards the middle/end of the year. So let's start here. Who was the first? I guess technically, I would count a Revival as a transformation. The Nappa into Vegeta was a transforming character. We had the 2 Synchro Gauge characters who I would say were also transforming. We had Broly who was transforming. Garlic Jr. was transforming. Goku Black, Vegito, and now Goku. So a lot of transforming characters this year. I don't know why they decided, because if you look at 2023, we didn't have nearly that many. I don't know why they really started to just give us tons of transforming characters, but I would agree that having just transformation character after transformation character kind of just doesn't feel as special at that point. Rose should have been much better, yes. Rose should have been a synchro gauge with the unit of Zamasu, also yes. 1 LF Zenkai compared to 3 last year, yep. Legends Fest week with no Zenkai or free unit, yeah, this week. So I agree with everything here. I think these are valid points for sure. I think when it comes to really what constitutes the disappointment that most people have in this Legends Fest celebration, there really isn't one thing you can really pinpoint the blame on. I think it's more so a bunch of different things coming together in aggregate that make it feel very just lackluster. Somebody feels like a copy-paste 6th anniversary, but worse. Nothing special that makes it a festival. A toxic meta with release that has only made it more miserable, and a lack of meaningful LF Zenkai top it off. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment so far for sure. Introduced a synchro gauge to do nothing with it. First festival to buff the same saga in part 1 and then failed. The units all have boring kits. Super Saiyan 2/3 Goku was uninspired. Only 1 LF Zenkai that was bad, and only 1 LF Plat that got instantly countered by 2 green headliners. Yeah, that is pretty funny actually how that worked. They dropped the unique equipment for Trunks. Again, I think that Trunks is pretty competent as just a character getting a unique equipment. He reminds me of the Gammas. Like him and the Gammas, when the Gammas got their unique equipment, were kind of, I think, in a similar place meta-wise. Pretty competent units, but yeah, they dropped 2 very powerful green, especially Goku, who just nullifies endurance. Pretty awkward spot for Trunks. No Zenkai, not even a 1% or 2 weeks from the last one is unheard of in a celebration like this. The Ultra Super Gogeta Platinum equipment is not even good enough to make him a top 10 unit with all these greens because you can snipe him when he has a little more than 50% HP, so his equipment is useless. I don't know if I would go as far as say the equipment is useless. I think there's 2 major issues with the equipment. We can pull this back up. I probably should have just kept it open. The issue number 1 with this equipment is just the same issue we've seen on every single Platinum equipment for Ultra characters, and it's just the restriction of him needing to be at 7 stars, because that's going to severely limit the amount of people that really benefit from the equipment overall. So if you're gonna slap this restriction on the equipment, can you really call this content? Like if you're just gonna drop this equip like this, I would even say there's almost 0 point in even using the equipment unless you have the slot 4 here. Because let's be real, 95% of the power from this equipment is coming from slot 4. So if you don't have the character at 7 stars, this doesn't really even constitute a piece of content in my eyes. So that's a big issue. And then the second problem is I would agree that the equipment needed to give him some form of defense somewhere, because he can do, I actually think his damage is pretty solid with the slot active here, but when it comes to defense, he gets completely crushed, and in this day and age, you can't do that. So I think I would agree the equipment should be better. I think if you're going to require somebody, because remember, they still have never brought back an old Ultra character on a banner featuring a new Ultra character. Every single Ultra character is the only Ultra on their own banner. So if you want to pull more copies of Ultra Super Gogeta, you need to summon on his banner from 2021. That is insane. So they're essentially telling you, if you want to get the 7-star slot active for this character to make him, I would say, just good, not great, good again, go ahead and summon on like the worst possible banner you could even potentially summon on, which is his Ultra banner. It's really bad. It's really bad. I would disagree that the equipment is worthless, because if you're somebody who has the character at 7 stars, he could be okay, but I would certainly agree that it needed to be way better for him to be even considered. Lack of festival sales. Really? The festival big box has to be the most disrespectful thing I've seen the devs do. Yeah, this is really... I'm not exactly sure how they come up with the prices for these, because we've had deals in the shop, and again, I don't really comment too much on sales and things like that, because what people do with their money is none of my business, really, but when you look at how much each Chrono Crystal costs in this... So what I typically like to do for the analysis on sales, which I don't really talk about much, is how much CC are you getting per dollar spent on this pack? And the rate for this one is actually pretty bad. And you would think that if you're going to charge somebody $95 for in-game currency, the rate would have to be pretty good. And that is not the case with this at all. It's actually a pretty bad rate. When you compare the rate on this pack to this pack, this is a daily pack that you can buy every single day. The rate on this 2900cc pack for $40 is better than the rate on this pack. Well, I would agree this is pretty disrespectful. The only time I would even say this is worth buying is if you are somebody who actually is considering buying non-sale packs, which I would assume most people don't do. Even whales can probably get away. Most whales can probably get away with not ever buying non-sale chrono crystals. So I would say this is just one of the worst packs we've ever seen, for sure. When you look at how much crystals are you actually getting per dollar that you spend on this, the conversion rate is very low. This game can already get expensive. You'd think their Black Friday sales would be more. The monthly CC refresh is a better deal than the festival. Yeah, true. This guy made the same comment I just talked about. Yeah, I have no explanation, man. I am in agreement with you. I don't know how they came up with this number. I don't. At this point, Mega Bonanza should be running all the time. Yep. Here's what I think they should do. And I've been saying this for, I think, over a year and a half now. I think I've been saying this since the 5th anniversary. Is Legends Weekend, normal equipment bonanzas should be just built into Legends Weekend. And if you look, like, we really don't even get normal bonanzas anymore. There's 3 levels to equipment bonanzas. There's normal bonanzas, which we never get anymore. There's mega bonanzas, and then there's ultra bonanzas. Ultra bonanzas typically only happen twice a year. It is whenever we get the ultra characters for major celebrations. So when the ultra character drops for anniversary, we get a mega bonanza or an ultra bonanza. And when the ultra character drops for Legends Fest, we get an ultra bonanza. That's how they've handled ultra bonanzas for the past 2 years. Mega bonanzas are usually up for just like throughout major celebrations, and I think they've actually also given us mega bonanzas for non-major celebrations, I believe. I don't remember 100%, but in terms of normal bonanzas, I think maybe a few times throughout the year they've given us normal bonanzas, but it typically, I think, is just mega, right? They need to just build regular equipment bonanzas into Legends Weekend. Just have regular bonanzas up every weekend. I don't really see a reason why they wouldn't do that. But certainly I would agree that during major celebrations like Anniversary and Legends Fest, mega bonanzas should just be up the entire time. There's no reason why they shouldn't. One of the annoying things that they do actually is they specifically time bonanzas to expire right before we get like big equipment. So like the co-op reset was today. We got a new season of co-op, which drops this, which is a really good equipment. And we got a new Awaken equipment, which, to be fair, this week isn't really anything crazy. I don't know why they even dropped a girl's Awaken equipment, but we got 2 Awaken equipments here. And guess when Bonanza ended? Like the second before these equipment were live in the game. So they specifically time bonanzas to end right before getting new equipment, and that is essentially just to force people to use more currency rerolling. I hate the fact that they limit it to only a week or a day. Equipment rolling is so horrible in this game, especially the Awakened ones. Bonanza should also have discounts. I've been saying for a while as well that the equipment system in this game is just straight up a scam. I will continue to say, for most players, 95% of players, just settling for an S on almost every piece of equipment is what I would recommend. You don't need to get Zs. You don't need to get Z pluses. You certainly don't need to get godly equipment. Just settling for an S is going to give you 85 to 90% of the value of most equipment. The only exception is when we're taking a look at specific equipment for Legends Limited characters or for Zenkai characters. So like, take a look at, like, I guess, Sword of Hope Trunks and the Gamma equipment. The third slot on these equipment, you really do need to get the max roll. Otherwise, the equipment isn't even worth using. I don't like this, because this is, you're essentially buffing characters, but for the average player, it takes a lot of resources to get the slot 3 roll that you need to make the equipment worth using. So this is, I think the equipment system in the game overall, I would just consider it to be a scam. Okay, so just boring. That's fair. The lack of I Love Senkais along with the toxic meta and the uninspired part 1, and I'll go further. Part 1 discouraged me so much that I'm ashamed of having summoned Goku Black. I mean, to be fair, let me pull up his banner. To be fair, his banner actually is pretty good. I think for the average player, this is, where is it? Here, I'm blind. Looking at Goku Black's banner, I mean, let's be realistic here. Goku Black is not so bad that you can't use him. He's good. He's just not nearly as good as he should be. Omega is still a solid character. Nappa Vegeta can be like an okay third include on a team. Super 17 is solid. I really thought they were going to do something with the androids, which they still might do, but we'll see. Merge Zamasu is pretty good still with the Zenkai. This guy might be getting a unique equipment or a Zenkai soon. So like the banner is actually pretty good. This is certainly one of the better banners, one of the better lineups we've seen on a banner this entire year. It's like this banner and the Gotenks banner were the two banners to summon on this year, I think. Because we take a look at the Vegito Blue banner. Obviously, Vegito Blue himself is insane, but other than this, I mean, Trunks now is pretty solid. Mai is pretty solid. These guys aren't the greatest. Not the greatest. Not the greatest. I mean, he's mediocre. Bad, not the greatest. So this banner is clearly worse than the Goku Black banner. It's just you have a lot more of a top-heavy lineup with like these better characters like Vegito Blue just being insanely good. This almost reminds me of an Ultra banner, actually, looking at this, because like you pull the main headlining character on this banner and you're set. If you don't pull this guy, who are you pulling? Mai? He's fine, but I don't really know if it's worth summoning specifically for Mai. Trunks is okay. Like, you're kind of out of luck if you don't pull the main character here. Whereas with Rosé's banner, his banner I think was actually pretty good. And I would even still, I would probably recommend summoning on Rosé over Vegito Blue because you're more likely to get a character that will help you. Your chances of pulling a character that will positively influence you as a player of this game, positively influence the value of your account, you have a higher chance of getting a character like that from summoning on this banner. Alrighty. They have released such cool units and made them trash, or they just fell off quickly. Even worse, some of the characters will not even see a light of the day ever again since they used all their moves. You talking about like animation-wise? Maybe. I mean, they've definitely redone animations a lot in this game already. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case, but I do agree that I don't really know if I'd call Vegeta and Nappa a trash release. I mean, they're just solid. This was never a character that was meant to like solo teams. They're more of like a side include on your team to fill like a second or third slot. Even on release, that's what they really were. And I think they were a solid character. I don't really think there's anything too negative to say about them. They're a revival character, which is pretty valuable. They have easy access to cover null. They have green card spawns. I don't know. They're pretty good. Not pretty good anymore. I would say they're just okay now. But when they dropped for the time, even through the anniversary, I would say they were okay. Broly and I mean, Super Vegeta I think is even on a different level completely than Broly. Super Vegeta is really just not good. Broly you could at least get value from, but yeah. Dry and feels unfun or not really like a big celebration. Lack of diversity and relevance. There's been way too many units, especially 1% that simply have been a waste of resources. Yeah, I definitely see that. Why make two Videls if girls isn't a real team? Yeah, and both SFTM. Sun Family? Majin Buu, I don't know what FSFCM is. Majin Buu Saga have better LS with the same typing. Where do you choose Videl over Vegito? You don't. Videl, I guess, I think he's talking about the green one. I don't really know what the design process or thought process behind a lot of these 1% sparkings, because to me, there's even more variance when it comes to the 1% sparkings than when it comes to LF characters, right? We could take a look at a lot of the 1% sparkings as well this year. So let's start at the beginning. Pan was kind of just okay. Bulla was good, for sure. Bulla was pretty good. Rage Shenron was certainly very annoying. Android 16 was kind of a weird drop because he really didn't have a team. Androids was I'd say still pretty solid back when this guy dropped, but he didn't really fit on the Android team because he was a strike character, and the Android team at this point was heavily Blast because it was 17 in the Gammas and Blue 17 also. So it was like, where does this guy fit on there? He doesn't. This guy was not great. I'll not talk about Mega Rising characters, I guess, because this is more so just referencing 1% characters that dropped alongside LFs. This Broly was not the greatest. This guy was good. Beerus was terrible. Evil Boo was insane. Best 1% of the year easily. What else? Green Videl was pretty bad. If you want to talk about the Turles squad, just a very questionable release. Like, they think about the fact that they spent development time developing 4 1% Sparkings, and then, you know what? Looking back at this, can we blame the Turles Crusher Core on not getting the Synchro Gauge for Legends Fest? Could we just put the blame on the Crusher Core? They created 4 character models for all these characters. They made them summonable. They have, like, you know, I would say they're summonable level kits. I mean, I wouldn't really say they're very good, but they have summonable kits, so they had to spend at least some time developing and balancing them. What if I just blamed the Turles Crusher Core taking the development time away, which should have been spent on Legends Fest? And that is the reason why we don't have the Synchro Gauge for these Part 1 characters, for Vegito and Rose. What if I just blame the Crusher Core? Would anybody complain if this banner was just Tree of Might Goku and, like, Almond? I don't think so. I mean, to be fair, like, they kind of... I think the reason why they did this is because if they were going to drop any of Turles' crew, they needed to have a team. I guess, but movies, right? They're all in movies. I feel like they could have just scrapped. What if they just didn't release any of the Turles Crusher Core characters and they just dropped, like, a new Lord Slug next to this Goku? Like a new Lord Slug. Didn't really need to give him some insane model. He would just have, like, new animations and like a 1% sparking kit, and that was it. That would have been fine. We didn't need 4 Crusher Core characters here. This might have been the problem. Looking, like, I actually... Is this why Legends Fest Part 1 is underwhelming? Is because of the Crusher Core? Maybe. Maybe they spent too much development time on these guys. I don't know. Hercule and Boo were bad. And then we got some Daima characters. This Goku, I don't like, why'd this guy even come out? No reason. Mai's good. Cell and Frieza are kind of mid. Videl sucks. Tamagami number 3 is great. He's really good. This might be like the 2nd or 3rd best 1% Sparking of the year behind Evil Boo. So there's a really big difference. Like, you want to see a comical difference. People compare God Goku to Ultimate Gohan and, like, oh my god, how could they make Ultimate Gohan so much better than God Goku when they came out at the same time? Dude, this is worse. Beerus came out at the same time as a 1% Sparking as Evil Boo. Is this a joke? This is like a 3-year gap in how good they are. This is insane. But yeah, 1% Sparkings being so different is for sure. I don't really get it either. Unrelated to your post, but what are the chances of me potentially becoming a dev? 0. I would never do that. I would never become a dev for this game. It sounds really... as much as we love clowning on the development team, it really does sound like a terrible experience. Never. I also don't think they get paid too well. Majin Vegeta alone had more hype than the entire Legends Fest. I would say maybe just because he's an Ultra, right? Ultras just have a different level of hype surrounding them. That's always why we see all the hype levels surrounding the Part 3 releases, is because they're Ultras. Just at the end of the day, that's just what it is. No Game was pretty disappointing. I'm tired of seeing fusions this often. If they aren't going to make new and different kits, I want them to at least make the less popular characters into good units. Devilman, Raditz, Slug, Videl, Hercule, Dabura, Babidi, Jocko. Yeah, I mean, I think they probably do tend to do that more often than not, but even this year, they definitely have not. Like, the Crusher Core definitely were not great. Garlic Jr. was almost there. Garlic Jr., I mean, he's an effective defensive character for sure, but you can't just be good defensively and expect to be able to win. Especially when this guy dropped, the entire game was just a defensive circus. So if you weren't doing damage, you weren't going to win timer. He was close though. He was almost there, man. He was almost there. Who else was what I consider to be like a less hype? Videl certainly wasn't good enough. This Trunks was not good enough. Yamcha was an example of a character that was very good on release, and he's Yamcha. So, yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes they hit the mark with that, and sometimes they don't. The celebration would have been received better if Goku Black was Synchro character infused in the merged Zamasu. Of course, yeah, 100% agree. I'm gonna blame Days, Almond, Cacao, and Raisin. It's not just hype. Units got fumbled heavy. Units like Super Saiyan 3 Goku were so boring and basic, no identity. This update doesn't even feel like it's a normal month. Banner, for God's sakes, failed to counter Ultra Majin Vegeta events are the same old thing. Yeah, the event thing is definitely... I'm surprised I haven't seen anybody mention this yet. But there really hasn't been any innovation when it comes to not just characters, but also events. Like, really, when you compare this Legends Festival in terms of the events, what is different from last year? Essentially just copy and paste from last year. Like, how much time was spent just in terms of events? How much time was spent preparing for this festival based off of last year's festival? I assume what they do is they just start by copy and pasting literally the actual source code from the prior year celebration. How much time did they spend just like editing that source code to create this year's festival? Probably not much time. It's very similar. Almost all the content is either summons or ways to get CC to do more summons. There's hardly anything else to do with 2 Zenkais, only one being an LF, a sort of hope unique equipment, and a restricted Plateau equipment for Ultra Super Gogeta being all that there is in terms of new stuff. Yeah, just very few events to play and things of that nature. Like I don't think they didn't even bring back the God Challenge for this. So like there hasn't been a God Challenge for this Legends Fest, which is kind of weird. Also, something I'll mention too is no one's mentioned this yet, but I think they did a good job with the Tri-Arena mode. I'm not going to sit here and say everything they've done is bad, because I think the Tri-Arena mode was fun, but why not just have it be up all the time? Right? It's something else for people to do. Even if there's no rewards with it, I think it's just a fun and different mode to play. So I'm not really sure why they're designing the Tri-Arena mode to be similar to Legends Battle Royale, where you can only play it for a certain amount of time and then it goes away. Just have it be up all the time. Why not? Just let people enjoy the mode. Crap banners, crap units, and ultra equipment start getting 4th slot. It's not like we already gave this game a ton of money. Yeah, the trade-offs for spending real money in this game doesn't feel worth it this year. That's actually an interesting... Yeah, that's an interesting point. The trade-offs for spending real money in this game doesn't feel worth it. I can understand that for sure, yeah. I think that also has to do with power creep as well. This year has been particularly egregious with power creep. So in a game that has more and more rapid power creep, you're going to feel like your dollar doesn't go as far. Like if you... Let me just pull up the list again. If you spent tons of money summoning for like Super Baby 2, Super Baby 2 was a solid release this year. I would say he aged better probably than most other characters this year. If you summoned for Super Baby 2 and you were able to use him through all the way up until probably when Gotenks dropped, like he was pretty solid all the way through here. Gotenks dropped what, in October? Super Baby 2 came out in March. You had a good 6.5 months of value from this character. And then he just kind of got wiped out. So, yeah. Feels like maybe this year your dollar is going less. You're getting less for your dollar this year than last year, and that's just a direct function of how rapid power creep has been. All right, we'll do a few more here. To sum it up quickly, it basically all boils down to they could have done better considering past releases and mechanics, but they decided against it and just going mostly uninspired and unfun and boring. Should have, would have, could have the celebration. Yeah, again, I think I don't think they're plotting. All right, guys, the downfall of Dragon Ball Legends. How do we start? Like, nah, there's something going on. We're not gonna know what it is, but I'm not gonna disagree with this. It really does feel like the, shoulda, coulda, woulda celebration, but they didn't. So the lack of actual in-game content is the worst part of Fest so far. A boring part 1, a part 2 that is on its own is good, but coupled with part 1 leaves more to desire, and 1 measly LF Zenkai and 1% Zenkai. Yeah, it feels like just there's, other than banners, What is there to do? Not enough Zenkais, not enough unique equipment, not enough events. It just overall just feels kind of dry. One of the biggest disappointments in Legends history. None of the characters bring interesting mechanics to the game. Just infinite combos, which isn't fun. No major content. Lack of Zenkais, which makes zero sense since this is supposed to be one of the biggest celebrations. Yeah. Would I say this is one of the biggest disappointments in Legends history? It certainly does feel that way. I want to say it's not just the fault of this Legends Fest, though. It kind of feels like this has been lingering, again, since the Z movie celebration. I was pretty vocal about the game feeling very dry during the Z movie celebration. Now, granted, that was kind of to be expected because it was right after the anniversary. And typically that part of the year is pretty slow in terms of content, in terms of hype. We're coming off the heels of the biggest celebration of the year, and typically I would assume at least the development team is taking time off, and they've had this stuff planned for a while, whatever. But it really does feel like things never picked up from there. Right? I understand, the team worked hard for the anniversary. The anniversary was very, very good this year. Good job. And they deserve their time off afterwards. Obviously I don't have any issues with that. But at some point, you got to pick up again. You can't just, have a very high point for the anniversary, and then you go from all of a sudden a 10 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10. At some point, the game's got to pick up from 3 out of 10. You can't just be 3 out of 10 for months on end. That's not how this works. For a game that has weekly updates, you can't just be 3 out of 10 forever from that point. It's going to be it's very hard to go from a 3 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. But it's really easy to go from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. So how do you fill the gap, right? You can't just go, okay, we're at a 3 out of 10, but next week is Legends Fest. We're going to be at a 10 out of 10 next week. No, you got to be 3 out of 10, and then the week after that, you got to be 5 out of 10, and then you got to be 6, then you got to be 8, and then you can jump to 10. You can't just go 3 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. It doesn't work that way. So that, to me, does feel kind of how they mismanaged the lead up to Legends Fest 2. I don't think it's just the Legends Fest celebration. It is the build up to the celebration that was not also handled great. All right, we'll make this the final one. The content, effort, and quality of this feels like a normal celebration that isn't anniversary or Legends Fest at all. Not even the new Ultra is going to save this Legends Fest. It's already been a straight month of disaster. Sad to see it. Yeah, I think it is going to be pretty hard. I think it is going to be pretty hard for them to, quote unquote, save the celebration with just the Ultra. We're already kind of too far in here. I think they can help themselves with the Ultra release. I think they can do a good job with the Ultra. His animations could be really cool. Could be a hype character. They could drop like actual content with the Ultra character. They could maybe announce a hype Zenkai like Gogeta Blue, who they definitely need to Zenkai. I don't know, maybe a restructuring of the Ultra banner format they could do. I don't know, a new like a brand new mechanic being introduced with the Ultra that really changes the way the game is played would be really interesting. There are ways they can bring things back, but I think the bottom line is people don't think that's going to happen. And the basis on that is because you take a look at the rest of the celebration, you take a look at how the game has been handled for the last 3-4 months. That's the basis. The last 3 to 4 months have all been more of the same. And so I think people are expecting more of the same for the next release. I don't think that's out of the question. So yeah, I mean, I think we've gotten a lot of comments here summing up how people are feeling about this celebration so far. I think I would resonate and agree with a lot of these comments. You guys can let me know down below in the YouTube comments what you think. What do you think particularly is wrong with the celebration? How do you feel about it so far? Do you think there's maybe something going on behind the scenes like I've been saying? I think it's just, again, we're never really going to know what the actual reason is, but there's got to be something going on because it's almost incomprehensible to think about how good Legends Fest was last year in 2023. Now, obviously, it wasn't perfect last year. I think Part 2 last year was probably worse than like this year's Part 2 was definitely better than last year's Part 2 was almost disaster level. But Part 1 was handled very well last year, And I mean, I think the part 3 was kind of just par for the course for major Celebration Ultra releases, but really it's part 1 that sets the tone for the Celebration, and I think they did a good job with that. They were, when you compare 2022 to 2023, there was a significant jump in quality of how the Celebration was handled overall, but we don't see that at all. In fact, we've seen a drop off this year from last year, so it's a bit disappointing. Let me know what you guys think. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.